Hello, everyone. Welcome back to episode 3 of the Three Body Problem. We're going through the Three Body Problem by Liu Cixin and why I like it and parts that jump out at me. I'm going to stop doing summaries of previous episodes because that will get harder and harder to do as we go through the book. So if you haven't listened to the first 2 episodes, you can go back and do so. We are picking up at chapter 7, I believe. Chapter 7. And before we get into what happens, I think it's an interesting point to point out a literary tool that Liu Cixin is using here. We're about to go into a new world. It's really exciting. We're about to go into Three Body for the first time. And I guess the easy way to think about it, that's I've heard dozens of times, is Liu Cixin is showing, not telling. We're about to do a lot of world building, and how Liu Cixin is going to do that is have a new character go into the world and start to figure it out. This is a really powerful tool because it puts the reader in the same place as a character, and you discover things as they do, rather than just tell you a bunch about the world and why it's so cool. So another example of this would be Matt Damon in Ocean's 11. He's the tourist, he's the new guy. Everyone else is using inside jokes, code language, and he has to say, hey, what does that mean? What's going on here? And everyone has to explain things to Matt Damon. And as they're doing so, they're explaining it to the audience. This is a really engaging way to world build. If you know the name of it, leave it in the comments. I'm not sure if this has a name, something like the cold open or surprise ending or something like that, but it's done really well here. So let's jump into it. Wang is about to enter the Three Body for the first time. Wang logs into Three Body at the behest of the Frontiers of Science, and as he does, he meets 2 travelers. Now, I believe that Liu Cixin has taken our world and the Three Body world and has found the most significant differentiator between the worlds to be the sun. And we don't know everything about the Three Bodies sun yet, but on our world, the sun gives us energy, it gives us scheduling, it gives us everything, it gives us weather, it gives us life. It is the symbol of patterns and regularity. And we see Wang here in the Three Body try to use this framework of the regular patterns of the sun to understand the Three Body world. And over you see it's not working. And even though it's not working, he's still trying. I forget who this quote is by. It feels like Nassim Taleb, but even if you give someone a bad map and say, here's a bad map, now find your way to that lighthouse, people will still look at the map a couple times to be like, well, I know it's a bad map, but there has to be something. And that's what we see Wang doing here, is continually trying to understand this world by time and by the sun. A funny beginning to his time in the Three Body. He meets 2 travelers and one has a backpack on. He says, what's that? And one says, a type of sunglass. Every 8 hours, all the sand flows to the bottom. Flip it 3 times and you can measure a day, but often I forget to flip it, so I need a follower to remind me. You seem to be on a very long journey. Is it necessary to carry such a bulky clock? How else would we measure time? A portable sundial would be much more convenient, or else you could just look at the sun and know the approximate time. King Wen and the followers stared at each other, and then turned as one to gaze at Wang as though he were an idiot. The sun? How can the sun tell us time? We're in the midst of a chaotic era. I have a couple more instances here of Wang trying to understand Three Body by using the sun as a bad map. The stars overhead shone even more brightly. So that was dusk instead of dawn, Wang asks. It's morning, but the sun doesn't always rise in the morning. That's what a chaotic era is like. Wang found this cold hard to take. It looks like the sun won't rise for a long time. He shivered and pointed to the blurry horizon. What makes you think that? There's no way to be certain. I told you, this is a chaotic era. The follower turned to King Wen. May I have some dried fish? So this is the beginning of Wang going into the three body and starting to understand it. He travels and he meets the king, the current king of three body. Right before Wang and his new friends get to the king, Wang is able to quickly piece together this differentiator of the sun. And he says, so, this is a world in which there are no patterns. And his follower goes on to say, now you know the goal of this game, to use our intellect and understanding to analyze all phenomena until we can know the pattern of the sun's movement. The survival of civilization depends on it. Now, we get to go to the king. Now we are ready to meet King Zhao. One of the followers and Wang go to King Zhao, and the follower presents Zhao with a proposed calendar that is set to predict when a chaotic era will end and a stable era will begin. The king is able to speed up time to test the veracity of this calendar and finds it to be generally accurate. And when he does, he orders the population to rehydrate. Now, this is another thing that we learned on the road traveling in. One of the followers said, this is too cold. Just let me dehydrate and roll me up and carry me like a yoga mat. And so one ability of people in the three body is they are able to release all the liquids from their body and turn into kind of a sponge and be rolled up and stored. And it is this ability that allows the civilization to inflate and deflate based on the era. And so when one of the followers presents Zhao with a calendar that says we're about to enter a long stable era, the king orders the civilization to rehydrate, and they take all the people and like throw them in lakes. Some people are like missing fingers. It's gross and weird and cool. And just as they're all about ready to be alive again, they see an omen in the sky. Earlier in this day, they saw 2 flying stars, which were supposedly a good omen. And now there are 3 stars in the sky instead of 2. And a period of cold begins. And civilization ends. So the prediction of the follower that Wang met was incorrect. The three body was met with a cold that I believe lasted for 60 years or so. And a message comes on the three body that says, this civilization ended because of a 600-year freeze, and the seed of humanity remains and will begin again. Thanks for playing three body. So that is Wang's first experience in three body. I got a coat. I was cold. Now we'll quickly go through chapters 8 and 9. After Wang exits the three body for the first time, he goes to visit Yang Dong's mother. And Yang Dong was the latest scientist to pass away from the persecutions that were following her, that are now following Wang. And when Wang goes to see this woman, we find out very quickly that the mother of Yang Dong is Ye Wenji, the woman that we left in the radar facility in China decades ago. The book opened with her sister being shot by the Chinese army, and then her father dying at the hands of the Red Army, betrayed by her mother. Then she was betrayed in the forest, and now her own daughter is the latest to perish around her. of course, Wang doesn't know this. He just goes to see Ye Wenji to ask where he can see the universe flicker. And this is another great example of why I like rereading books. If we remember Ye Wenji in the Mongolian forest and her feelings about cutting down trees and how they reminded her of her father, and if we think about the name of part 2, The Dark Forest, that gives this passage such a deep meaning that I find very beautiful. So this is on page 113. Wang is going into Ye Wenji's home. Gently, he pushed the door open. A faint fragrance that filled the room was unexpected, the smell of the forest. He seemed to have entered the hut of a ranger. The walls were covered by strips of bark. The 3 stools were unadorned tree stumps, the desk made from 3 bigger tree stumps pushed together. So, this is not an accident. Liu Cixin has revealed in interviews that he had the plot of The Dark Forest figured out when he published The Three-Body Problem. And so these foreshadowings are no accident. Other than us learning that Ye Wenji is Yang Dong's mother, not much else happens. And she tells Wang where he can see the universe flicker. And oh my God, I just saw a family of 4 riding by on a motorcycle. And that is what it's like to live in Sunset Park. Anyway, Wang goes to a observatory and meets a scientist that explains to him how impossible it is for what he thinks is going to happen is to happen. A very low frequency that the universe emits from remnants of the Big Bang is one of the most constant things in the universe. And right when it's scheduled to happen, this low frequency begins to flicker. And Wang is given glasses, special glasses, so he can see the flickering with his eyes. He then takes a Morse code chart and is able to verify that the universe is flickering to the countdown that is no longer in front of his eyes because Wang stopped his research on nanoparticles. But the universe is now confirming that this countdown is indeed happening. And so now we have a growing mystery of a force that is not just the frontiers of science. The frontiers of science cannot cause the universe to flicker. But whatever it is now in communication with Wang. And he doesn't know what it is. And he doesn't know what's going on in a 3-body computer game. But those are the mysteries that are in front of him now. I love them. So thanks for listening. I'll see you soon. This is Tyler Schwartz, signing off.